Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Hi guys, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another show of Catholic Mysticism, where we talk about the supernatural, spiritual warfare, and all things Catholic and other topics. So tonight what we're going to start in is I want to give some information on some disturbing facts about addictions. And basically what I'm going to touch on right now is something that plagues a lot of people, and it's alcohol addiction. And this is something that is so prevalent in our society today, and unfortunately, like any addiction, it's destructive. There are no harmless addictions. And the alcohol can be adults, it can be children, unfortunately, teenagers, college students. And it's a disturbing fact that something that's called alcohol use disorder. 15.1 million people in the United States alone suffer from this. 9.8 million are men, and 5.3 are women. So this is just an illness that affects men. It also affects quite a bit of women. What's very disturbing is that in each year in the United States, on an average year, there are 88,000 deaths, with 62,000 of these being men and 26,000 women. And actually, it's the third highest cause of preventable death next to tobacco and poor diet and exercise. The cost for the United States on an average year is $249 billion. And it's sad that 10% of all children in the United States will live with either a parent or both with alcohol use disorder. And we're not even going to touch on the binge drinking that college students have and the tragic call that parents get that at a party that their child died of alcohol poisoning. Or the global statistics, which are even more staggering. Or women with child, and how it harms the fetus in the child that will soon be born. And it's something that comedians have made jokes about, that we laugh at, that maybe it's not one of the more difficult or destructive addictions. And from those statistics alone, I think we both and all can understand that that's not true. Like any addiction, whether it be alcohol, drugs, which are seeing an opioid epidemic now and deaths, pornography with the destruction of families, gambling with, again, loss of families, loss of property, loss of dignity. None of the addictions are something to be trivialized or laughed at. They are harmful, destructive, and in their wake, they leave a tremendous amount of suffering and pain. And I have a guest tonight on tonight's show. We're going to shift gears a little bit. I've known him quite a few years. He's a man I admire. He has looked the demon of alcoholism in the face. And he's fought a war and continues to fight a war, in each day a different battle, a different front, if you will. But he marches on. And with the grace and the help of God, he's continuing on. Because it's not an easy struggle, and it is a battle. And as you know, on the show we talk about the supernatural. And all those addictions I mentioned are forms of a warfare. And like any war, there is a body count. But Brian is doing the best he can right now to fight that war on all fronts. And it's quite a story. And he's going to come on the air, and he's going to give you his witness. So with that, I introduce Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for the kind words. Excuse me. Well, I come from a family of 10. I know my dad was an alcoholic. I don't blame my dad because I was the one that chose to pick up the alcohol. I know my brother was an alcoholic. I don't blame my brother. I chose to pick up the beer, whiskey, whatever I had. For 30 years, well, I'll say 40 years, I was a drinker. Over 40 years, I was a drinker. And when I drank, I drank. Trust me. When I drank, I drank. There was times where I could not remember what day it was or what time of the day it was, because all I worried about was having that. My friend. I used to call him my friend. The beer was my friend. The whiskey was my friend. I had to have it. Whether I didn't want it or didn't feel like drinking it, I still had to do it because I was addicted to it. And one day I moved next door to these fine people. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have known God the way I know God now, if it wasn't for them. I believed in God. But the part I didn't have was I didn't have faith in God because I wasn't taught how to have faith in God. You know, there's a difference between believing in God and having faith in God. Believing in God is knowing He can do anything you ask. But having faith in God is knowing He will do anything you ask. I've had a few trials and tribulations in my life. Loss of family members. I actually blamed myself for one of my members of my family when she passed. I blamed myself because I didn't pray hard enough. I told myself, you didn't pray hard enough, because I had so much faith in God that I didn't think I had to pray. I had so much faith in Him that I didn't think I had to pray because I knew He was going to save her. And when God took her, I blamed myself for 9 months until someone put something into my head, and I realized, you know, God took her. God took my sister for a reason. And don't think I wasn't drinking, because I was.
Brian, would you say when your sister was taken, would you drink more now because you blamed yourself? And do you have any idea why you blamed yourself for your sister's death, because you didn't pray hard enough?
My sister survived pancreatic cancer for 12 years. And you survived pancreatic cancer. I mean, that's a miracle.
Was that an answer you felt at that time to prayer? I'm assuming you guys may have been praying for your sister's health recovery, like a lot of people that have dire consequence. They turn to God, even if they don't know Him at times.
Oh, very much, very much. As a matter of fact, one of my other sisters said that the one that was the strongest in the family through this whole ordeal, she thought was going to be the weakest. And I was the one she thought was going to be the weakest. But when the doctors would come in and say, okay, this is what's going to happen to your sister, they would start crying. And I would say, just listen to them. Listen to them. Things are going to get better. Things are going to get better. And the only way things are going to get better, you have to pray. You do. And I'm not just saying this. You have to have faith that He can do anything you ask. I take that back. He will do anything you ask. And like I said, my sister, she survived pancreatic cancer 12 years. and then she got stomach cancer, and I had the attitude of, well, God will save. God, she went through this before. She'll pull through it again. And I didn't pray as much as I prayed the first time, and that's why I blame myself. That's why.
Now, I'm guessing at this time you were married.
I was.
You spoke to family.
I was.
And
had an awesome family. Still have an awesome family, you know. Just you gotta excuse me. This is the first time I've ever been on air. Sorry. I was married for a good 11 years, 17 with her. We had our ups and downs, you know. Working the night shift didn't help, you know. I worked at the post office for 24 years. Working the night shift didn't help. I would get out of work and have a 12-pack all ready in the back seat of my car, go to Dunkin' Donuts. I'm talking 6 o'clock in the morning, people. I'd go to Dunkin' Donuts, get a coffee, and ask for an empty cup with a cover. Pull out of Dunkin' Donuts, get on the highway, and pop my first beer and pour it into the empty Dunkin' Donuts cup and drive around until I finished that 12-pack. And this happened every day for a good, I'll say, 11 years.
So right from the get-go, when you were married, you were drinking.
Right. What really pushed me over the edge is when I knew we were going to get a divorce. That's what pushed me over the edge. That's when I started really drinking. I mean, I drank, but you know, I went to work. I worked around the house. I took care of my children.
And how many children did you have, or have?
I have 3 children.
And so they were part of this unfortunate statistic I mentioned earlier. They were part of that 10%. So you're what I guess we call a functioning alcoholic, that you were able to pay the bills, you were able to go to work, and kind of hold it together without any disastrous consequences in the beginning. But what happened after you really started to drink? What were the consequences?
Oh, man. Whew, lost my job. 24 years at the post office. Lost it. I lost my family. I was homeless, jobless, penniless, godless. Me. I couldn't survive. I couldn't survive, man.
Now, how was your health at this time? I mean, you were looking at the devil himself in the form of this alcoholism and doing battle with him. And yet, was there any moment where you decided to stop drinking after all this was happening? You lost your wife, you lost your children, everything, your job, your pension, everything. You mentioned you were homeless, and on top of everything, were you still drinking?
I was still drinking. I did anything and everything to get what I wanted. And that was beer, whiskey, and I had to have my pack of smokes. And I would, like I said, I would drive around, and if I wasn't driving around, I was a hermit. I'd stay in my apartment, and I would drink.
Now, you mentioned you lost your job. How were you able to afford this? The cigarettes, the alcohol, gasoline for the car? I mean, did this put you in a dire position where you went into debt after having this house and having all these things, these material things, all the toys? How does one feel about, how do you do that? As a person that needs, like you said, you had to have it each and waking day. How do you get the money when you don't have any?
constant borrowing. Unfortunately, lying, cheating, not cheating like, cheating on your spouse, cheating other people out of some stuff. Anything, like I said, majority of it was lying. It was just borrowing. Saying here, I even lied to my children. Can I borrow $30? I need money for gas. I didn't buy gas. I bought a 12-pack of beer, and I bought, if I had enough, 2 packs of cigarettes. And this way, I always borrowed 30 because the next day I knew I had enough for the same thing. So I went 2 days with $30, which I made,
This is going to be a tough question. I think it's a question a lot of people that are down and out. It may not be alcoholism or people that have just lost a job, especially for a man now. You had the things that men are supposed to acquire. You had the beautiful wife, the children, the house, good job. And now you're taken from your children and lying to them to get money to feed your habit here. How did that make you feel as a man?
I was. That's a really hard question. Tough question.
Not a lot of dignity, I would imagine.
Nah, man. Dignity. I was ashamed of myself. I would look in the mirror and say, I hate you. You're a bum. You're worthless.
Was God anywhere with you at this stage of your life?
I used to drink, and I wouldn't fall asleep. I would pass out. And before I would pass out, I would ask God, please, when I wake up the next morning, make it as if I never had a drink in my entire life. And when I woke up the next morning, I was hungover. I was craving my beer. I lit up a cigarette, which was all just, it wasn't, the faith of asking God. It was believing God can do it, but it wasn't the faith that God will do it. Because I know I did it. I used to do it every day, and I know in my heart that when I would say that, God would say to me, "All right, Mister, listen. You want to get sober? You got to do some work here. Okay, you need to do some work. I can do it for you. I will do it for you, but you need to do some work. There's no freebies here." No freebies. And I don't mean to go back, but I didn't start drinking until I was 19. I was 19. When I joined the Army is when I started drinking. Okay? I was pissed at my brother when he said, join the Army, because I wanted to join the Coast Guard. But he said, join the Army.
Except at a time.
And I was kind of pissed. Part of my French.
So you were actually drinking as a young man, and for most of your life then, this was a normal progression, except that at times being married with the children, you could do the stuff that dad and a husband's supposed to do and function. But it only got after the divorce when things really bottomed out then.
Oh, yeah. Big time, because I was a free man. You do anything I want, and if I want to go out and have a drink, I'm going to go out and have a drink. You can't say nothing about it. Not now, you, or you.
So now, if I'm reading you right, we see you getting even more of a chip on your shoulder. Would you say this alcoholism, other type of addictive behaviors, or other kind of trouble, is that a common cause that happens once you're hooked on something? It's just a natural domino effect?
That was the first thing. The first thing I did was drink a beer. As time went on, while I was in the service, I started smoking pot. Then I started doing speed. And then I got transferred to Germany, started doing acid. I started smoking hashish. I was big-time druggy. Big-time druggy. Alcohol is a drug, so they say. But I was a bad boy.
It's amazing listening to all this that, and I believe, and you can concur on this, I believe the grace of God was still with you. Because I think you still believe, and I think that's important, and we'll get your opinion on this, Brian. I think it's important, even if people are struggling right now, suffering with whatever cost you have, whether it's an addiction, whether it's a death in the family, whether it's a divorce, to not give up on God, even though you may have given up on God. Did you ever feel He let you down or that He gave up on you?
No, I didn't. Never. Because He's always there, and all He wants you to do is ask, help me, Lord, help me. He doesn't turn His back on you. He's always there for you, but you've got to make the first step.
Now, during this time, I'm guessing you're not practicing any faith. You're not practicing your Catholicism. Did you ever believe in the devil at this time? Did you ever think that maybe there is some kind of warfare I'm in or anything like that? It was just me. I was just a drinker. I have reasons to drink and things like that.
I didn't think of, it's the devil that's doing it to me. But, of course, once I learned, because when you learn about God, it's obvious you learn about the devil, too. Okay, and we all know who's the greater of the two, and who's the better of the two, and who comforts you, and who loves you.
And, this is going to be another tough question. 2 questions. 1, did you feel that anybody at this time loved you? And then 2, did you feel that God loved you?
At what point in my life are you talking?
Well, I'm talking about when things went sour and you lost the job, the house, the family. Did you think you were unloved by people, and then did you think you were unloved by God Himself?
I don't think I was unloved, no. I think that I disappointed a lot of people. I won't say that me personally, this is my opinion, I disappointed God. And God's not disappointed in me. He's not ashamed of me, of what I did, because He forgave me for everything that I did. And that's one thing I had to do was I had to ask Him for His forgiveness, and I knew I was going to get a yes out of the deal. And then the next step was I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself for every dirty, rotten thing I did to anybody. And I had to ask for forgiveness from these people. And if these people, because I was starting a new life, and these people, I needed them to forgive me.
And let's talk about that new life. And ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, walking the faith, struggling right now, what Brian said is really, really profound about God forgiving and then forgiving Himself. And those are 2 key things, because God will never give up on any of us. But the hard part for us is that forgiveness for ourselves. But I want to go back to Brian and ask him now the good part. When did it start to turn around?
It's okay. This is when I was homeless, okay? And someone gave me $20 to buy my oldest granddaughter a birthday present because it was her birthday that day. And I wasn't living too far from her. And then I bought a present, but I bought a present for me. I bought a 12-pack, and I bought a pack of cigarettes. And when I got to where I was supposed to be, that person looked dead straight in my eye and said, "You're drunk, huh?" I said, "Yep." I said, "Call the VA." And this person said to me, "Are you sure?" I said, "Call the VA. I can't do this no more. I can't do this no more." I even stole from my granddaughter, my 4-year-old granddaughter. I can't do this no more. I told this person to call my brother and to have him pick me up the next morning, and I'd be ready. 10 o'clock the next morning, January 6th of 2015, my brother picked me up. On the way to the VA in West Haven, I said, "Stop at the Packy, I want one more hurrah." And he said, "No, I'm taking you straight to the VA."
We'll take a break for a second here. If anybody wants to call in and ask Brian or myself a question, the number here is 515-604-9344, and the access code is 914121. And you can feel free to ask any questions. So what happened now at the VA, Brian?
Okay, I was put in detox for 3 days.
And how did that go? What did it feel like?
Actually, I was okay. I mean, when I was out in the world and I didn't have a beer, I would shake like, "Yeah, I need a beer. Give me my beer. I got to find something. Somebody's got to give me money." But once I was in the detox, I thought I was gonna do, I can't do this, because I did it plenty of times. It went pretty good for me, the 3 days. And then from there, I was brought to the VA in Brockton, Mass. And I went through a program called the REACH program, which was not REACH program, CIRCA program. That was my first program, and that was for 90 days. And when my time was coming up to get out of the program, I was like, I'm not ready to go home. I need to go somewhere else. And at that time, I was like, you know what? I'm serious about staying sober. And they put me in another program, which was awesome. That was the REACH program. They put me back to work so I can get back to the work environment once I got out of the VA system.
So this wasn't your old job, but a different type of job.
Yes, this was working for the VA. It was therapy work. And it was just for you to get once you leave your programs and you go and look for work, then you're in the swing of things, And that was 4 months. And I told my caseworker, I said, "I'm not ready to go home yet. I know I'll drink. I'm not ready to go home. I need some place to go." And he mentioned this place in Northampton, Mass. And it was called Cherry Street. It was a sober house. And these people it was part of the VA, And I was there for a year. And it was the first time in my life that I was like, I don't miss it. I don't miss the drinking.
So now the physical craving is starting to go. And how are you doing emotionally? How are you doing about Brian? How does Brian feel now about himself?
That's one thing that I had to fix was, and I don't mean this to sound selfish, because I had to start thinking about Brian. I couldn't think about my children. I couldn't think about my grandbaby. I couldn't think about this person or that person. Number one, besides God, because God is number one in my life, was Brian. Because Brian, his head is starting to clear. His head is starting to get better with his thinking, and he has to start a whole new life as a sober man. And this would be the first time in over 40 years I was a sober man. I had to take care of Brian. I had an episode with a friend of mine text me one night saying, all you do is think about yourself. You don't think about anybody else. You don't appreciate what other people do for you, which was a lie. Because I do appreciate what people, I did appreciate what people did for me.
But now as you're getting sober, now the lies that you used to believe when you were drinking that would cause you to drink, because now you're able to release these lies now. Because now you're, like you said a minute ago, now it's a clear thinking.
Oh yeah. But I had to put this, I don't mean to sound that, when I say this, I had to put this person in his place, because this person was my brother. And I was only 4 months sober. And I had it with him. And I said, this is no joke. Okay? I'm only sober for 4 months. And this isn't a joke. I got to stay I want to stay sober for the rest of my life. I have to change my whole life. My thinking, people I hang with, things I do, places I go. And if you keep throwing this stuff at me about all this pity stuff, I don't want to be a part of it.
These sound like awful hard choices that you're having to make while you're trying to get your sobriety.
Like I said, I hate to sound selfish, but I have to think of Brian. Okay.
Now, where was your faith walk right now? Now you're starting to get sober. You're getting some dignity back. You're getting a job. What's going on spiritually with you?
Well,
I heard a rumor up there that you were passing rosaries out at one time to the people.
Oh yeah. Are you kidding me?
So how did this all come to be here? Now we're getting sober, and now we're starting to walk toward reaching our hand toward the Lord.
Well, one day it was a Sunday morning, and we had a group that went to a AA meeting, and these two young kids were, one, unfortunately, she OD'd, unfortunately. She was such a good girl. I was one of the oldest guys there, okay, in the groups.
Let me ask you this. That's a tragic story, and unfortunately all too prevalent today. Is it safe to say that if you didn't stop drinking, would you be here today?
I don't know where I'd be, man. I'll tell you the truth.
That's a scary place, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know who would be with me. I don't know, I have so much support. You don't know. I want to give some support away. Well, back to the spiritual. You know,
Yeah, the two girls you mentioned. One unfortunately OD'd.
well, it was a guy and a girl, and they were young vets, good kids, and they said, "Hey, Brad, come to church with us." I'm like, "Huh? I'm gonna church in time. You want me to go? Okay, let's go." And that day, thank God that they had asked me, because, you know, I've missed some church, but I've been going to church religiously for almost 3 years straight. You know, I've missed a few here and there, but I look forward to Sunday mornings. I do. I can't wait for Sunday mornings. I'm like, what am I going to wear? I'm in my closet. What am I going to wear? During Lent, I think it's in the Catholic faith, it's purple, right? The whole Lent, I wore all purple. Every Sunday, I came in to church. I went into God's house with purple. I hate to sound modernized, but just to represent. You know what I mean?
So these young people got you going back to Mass. So I'm guessing then if you're going to Mass, you've made a confession.
I have.
And how did that feel when you made your confession after all these years? Because now you're starting to be clean both physically and now the big part. Now you're going to walk into a confessional after umpteen years, and how'd that go?
Well, I wasn't nervous. You know, I've been to confession before. I wasn't nervous. And I did mention, when I did mention my children, how I let them down, I had told the priest, I said, you know, I'm so lucky to have my children. And the priest said to me, you know what? You're not lucky. You're blessed. And I said, yep, I'm blessed to have them, to have my children. And now I have 5 grandchildren. 2 are with God, 3 here on earth.
Yeah, well, what happened there with the 2 young children that you said are with God?
My daughter lost her twin boys, and you want to talk about a test? I had to tell myself, you know what? 1, your daughter needs you. 2, if you think, and I'm directing this at of course, the devil, okay? If you think that I'm going to use my grandbaby's passing as an excuse to drink, you got another thing coming, okay? And thank God I didn't drink. And I'm still sober, you know. I mean, I've had my temptations.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute, because now I'm looking at a guy that is the picture of health. He looks like $1 million. I know because I go to the parish, he's going with his ex-wife. They don't miss Sundays. His kids, I've seen, have sent him birthday cards, text messages, which are so beautiful, telling them how proud they are of their father to beat this addiction. But you mentioned, that particular time, that's a situation that can drive a lot of people to the brink, and it didn't in this case. And you mentioned something earlier I want to go on in case anyone's listening here that's struggling with the type of situations like these, with these addictions. Is there ever a moment, Brian, that you just kick back and say, once you've obtained the success? Because it's something I know, too, that was a big benefit for Brian, because, God restores what is lost. What the devil sometimes takes away, what we try to take away from ourselves, God gives back 100-fold. Brian got his pension back from that job that he lost after all those years. And the Lord has put him on a good path and given him a lot of blessings. But is there ever a time now, you fought this war, you're still fighting this war, is there ever a time you just kick back and go, I got it made? Or is it always, do you always recognize now, this is going to be a battle, this is something I have to accept, and I've got to stay on guard?
I don't say I got it made. You know what I say, Al? I said, I'm so proud of you, man. I'm so proud of you.
Now, what a difference from the guy you were just telling us a little while ago, looked in the mirror and couldn't stand himself.
Couldn't stand myself. Couldn't stand myself. Like Al said, I got my pension back. I work for the federal government again. I work for the VA system. I'll be going to school in January. Dog training. I'll be going to dog training college. And then after that, I am going to go to school for training service dogs for vets. Okay? So your life can turn around. Your life can turn around.
Yeah, let's hear about some of those good things that turned around. Let's hear about how you reconnected with your family, and if you could, tell us a little more about some of the plans you've got going, because that's so awesome.
I got my children back, but I've never not had my children. They've always been in my life, and they always had my back. When they knew I was drinking, they never, they didn't judge me. They were always there for me. And, like you said before, I get texts from my kids saying how proud they are of me, and I'm telling you, this is only, January will be 3 years, okay? 3 years I'll be sober in January. And I can say that because I know there are temptations out there, but I know what I have. I know who I have. I know who I have.
And, of course, not only now, you're talking, of course, with your comfortability in yourself, but you also now are walking really strong with God, with Jesus himself.
I am. Listen, if you don't believe in miracles, start, because you're listening to one. You're listening to a miracle. Trust me. You're listening to a miracle.
And God has really worked some good stuff in your life, and he's restoring, as I mentioned before, all these things that were stripped away and taken away. And, if you're listening and connecting some dots here in Brian's story, the one constant that he had when all this was being taken away, even when he was beating himself up, was he didn't beat God up. And he knew God was there, and God could take this. So he knew that God was out there somewhere. And he just needed to kind of get a little closer and find him. And that's true for us all, brothers and sisters. Brian, if anybody's going through the things you're going with any these type of addictions, do you think you could give them any pointers or any advice on what to do or seeking help, or if they're struggling, if they are sober, some advice on how to keep staying sober?
Okay. First of all, you really want to. It's up to you. You need to decide whether you really want to get off of this addiction or any other addiction, but it's up to you. You have to be patient. Of course, number one, you put and keep God in your life. Put and keep God in your life. I tell you, you gotta want to do it. I was lower than the ocean floor, and now I'm as high as the heavenly skies. My life has turned around. I know I'm not saying what you had asked me to say because I got off. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got off track. But you have to wanna get sober or get off of the drugs. It's up to you. You have to tell yourself. I had to tell myself, okay, you can't do this alone, because I was trying to do it alone. I was faking it. I would go to the VA for outpatient, and then for alcohol classes. And when I got out of the VA, I was going home, and then I would say, I got till 9 o'clock tonight to drink, so the next morning when they give me a breathalyzer, it won't show on the breathalyzer. So stop lying to yourself. Okay? That's what I was saying. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop cheating yourself. Okay? Stop cheating yourself of a good life.
Because you can't have that good life. Because I see that as your witness. I see how you've turned it around.
I have an awesome life.
And others can get that.
Of course. Don't, if I, trust me, if I can do it, anybody, I swear, if I can do it, anybody can do it. You just got to want it. You got to want to stop lying and cheating and waking up on hangovers and sticking junk up your nose just because. And the thing, one of the things that it took me so long to quit this addiction is because I thought I was never going to be happy. What if I go to a wedding? What if I'm invited to a wedding? I can't drink. Okay. What if I go to an outside party, picnic? People around. Guess what? I've gone to where I haven't drank. I've gone to parties where I haven't drank. And that was happy. That was happy.
So now, earlier in the show, we were talking, because this is about the mysticism and the Catholic faith, and you said you didn't recognize at the time that it could have been temptations from the devil or anything like that, or maybe not necessarily warfare, but it was just something you were doing. Now, how has your perspective on that changed a little bit now? Do you see this for the bigger picture?
Well, I know there's a devil. For an example, me and my ex-wife, we took two of our grandbabies to a Polish test just to get the kids out so they can, buy them something to eat and get them a toy, whatever. And it started to rain, and one of the vendors said we can go into the basement of a Polish club, and it just so happened a club that I used to go and party. And I was sitting in there, and I was looking around. I was looking at the bar, and I was looking at the people sitting around drinking, and it stopped raining, and we were getting ready to leave. So when I got up, I turned to my ex. I said, "You know what? I think I'm going to go back to drinking." And my ex said, "What?" I said, "I miss it. I miss this. I think I'm going to go back to drinking." And for a week, I cried. I definitely prayed, and I cried while I was working. I would hide my cry, but I was crying. I can't go back. I can't go back to that. And I always said this: the day I quit drinking is the day God said to me, Brian, thank you for stopping the destruction of what I created. I got a thank you from God. I got a thank you from God for stopping what He created, the damage I was doing. And it's no lie.
So no doubt in your mind that these temptations can come in and you have to be on guard because it is a warfare. It's been a warfare in your life.
Oh, yeah. You know, just the other day, last Friday was Friday the 13th, and somebody had said, watch out, it's Friday the 13th. I said, I ain't got nothing to worry about. I know I got God. Friday the 13th, it's just another day.
Well, I noticed when you were talking about that week, and you said you cried, but you also prayed. And I got to think that God was in a very active part because that's all part of this. The temptation's there, but with God, He is so much stronger, and He gives you that grace to overcome that temptation.
Well, yeah. And He puts people in your lives that help change your life. And Al, you and your wife Cindy, you helped change my life, man. You helped change my life, man. You helped save my life, yeah. And God puts those people in your life. God put those people in your life. Whether it's how you feeling? Doing okay? Or did you take your meds, man? Are you all right? You still on your meds, right? Any little simple comment or whatever, you know, to keep you uplifted. You know, I when I walk around, I walk with my head held up. Trust me. Even when I'm thinking, I don't put my head down because just when you put your head down, there's only one place you're looking at. Okay, yeah, you always got to keep your head up. Keep your head up because you'll really know who you're looking at.
And I guess that who you're looking at is Jesus.
That's right.
Because He's the one that does all this. And I like what you said. He does, through the Holy Spirit, He uses events, He uses people to do that. But it's His tapestry. I mean, it's His quilt work.
Oh, yeah.
And how important is God in your life right now at this moment we speak?
Wow. Like I said, God is number one. I come next, then my children. Okay? My children are not over God. Because if I didn't have God, I wouldn't have my children. In order for me to be happy, I have to have God in my life. And in order for me to make my children happy, I have to be happy. And God, I try. An upbeat. A lot of people are like, yeah, he's a sober man. And I can say, January 5th, or January 6th, I say that. Because not that I have, people say, don't be too cocky about it. It ain't being cocky. What it is, it's me having faith in God, keeping me sober. It ain't being cocky. It isn't being big-headed. It isn't being overconfident. It's having faith in God that I'm going to stay sober.
And I noticed you said you're going back to school to work with the canine dogs. It's so awesome. So you're giving back now, too. This was a selfish Brian that, as he said just a little while ago, stole not only from his children but his grandchildren to feed the alcohol beast. But now you're giving back.
I give back. I give back. I even if it's just a little thing, like.
But in little things are some of the greatest things. Wouldn't you agree?
Of course. And one of my I have 5 motivations that keep me sober, and those are my five grandchildren. They're my motivation. God gave them to me. I know God put them on this earth to get me sober. I know He did.
Well, Brian, we thank you for your witness. It takes a lot of courage to come out and talk about things that we're not proud of in our lives, and we all have these things, and some have them much worse than others. And brothers and sisters, please, I'm going to ask on Brian's behalf to keep him and his family in your prayers, as well as all those struggling from addictions. And, I hope you take Brian's message to heart, everyone out there listening tonight or listen to the program on an archive, that, as he said, if he can do it, anyone can do it. And don't give up, because with God, as the angel told Mary, with God, all things are possible. And like Brian, take that in your hearts, take it in your spirit, and live it. And Brian, would you like to say anything before we say goodnight to the fine folks?
Just like I said before, believing in God is knowing He can do anything you want. But having faith in God is He will do what you ask.
Okay, and we'll wrap it up with a prayer, and we'll pray for all those suffering tonight, all those with addictions. Be open to the Holy Spirit. See what path He leads you. And we pray, Blessed Mother Mary, and today, St. Luke, on your feast day, for special intercessions and prayers to help those in need tonight with addictions, to help all those, to give them the strength of the Spirit, to seek the wisdom of the Spirit, to get the help they need, and to put the people, Lord, in their lives that will guide them back to you and back to the great life and the free life that you've given Brian and all those who are overcoming addictions. And let them be in your number and be in those saints who go marching on. God bless, brothers and sisters.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.